So, I'm a little unsure of where to begin with this one. Apologies for being late to the party with Sonic Prime Season 2 and weekly uploads, but my life schedule didn't line up with the Netflix release. When I did get around to finish watching it, though, I only had one thought. That was a thing that happened. I'm sorry, but there just wasn't much to grab me in either way. It's too inoffensive to hate, but it's also not interesting enough to love. As much as I dislike being negative, I dislike dishonesty more, so allow me to explain why Sonic Prime Season 2 is, as people say today, mid. The first season, while a little questionable in execution sometimes, had an interesting concept in the form of Sonic traveling to different worlds and meeting versions of his friends completely different from the ones he knew. There were also the recurring brief appearances of Shadow, which got paid off in the final episode. Season 2 picks up where the first one left off, and we get some exposition on the nature of the Shadowverse and learn that Shadow has a plan to put it all back. This episode is admittedly fine. Sonic and Shadow fighting over the tech is entertaining, and it gets the plot in motion for the season. Plus, it sets up them using the same powers to work together rather than against each other in the final episode. So, nice parallels there. That being said, this show bent over backwards to make sure Shadow couldn't explore the worlds for some reason. The thing that rubs me the wrong way about that is that we see characters from different worlds pass over with no issues in the second half. Granted, there is a rip in reality, but if they can do it, there's no reason for Shadow not to be able to show up. I had no problems with this first episode, and really it only just hurt future episodes in the season. Speaking of which, the next three episodes are where things really slow down for me. Sonic returns to the Boss Cage Mage, and aside from a throwaway joke to continue the theme of nature versus commercialism, it feels wasted. The characters disagree over fighting and giving in, which doesn't make sense since Boss Cage Rouge and her crew were actively trying to fight back against Thorn for access to food in the first season. I'll admit I did chuckle at the joke of Sonic being glad he always wears gloves because it felt like some thought went into the joke, though I couldn't care less for the barfing flicky bit. And that's it. Sonic gets the second shard, and nothing else happens, except for a point we'll get to later. Then Sonic returns to the ocean with Dred'D and his crew, where the biggest nail in the coffin was placed. Rusty Rose, who was one of the Chaos Council's top robots, is left behind and just switches sides. I'm sorry, but what? Season 1 set up the possibility, don't get me wrong, but this is how you chose to resolve this? Arguably the biggest foe of Season 1 has a full character reversal in 5 minutes because of one choice made by not even every Chaos Council member. This moment blew any potential for an interesting arc with this character out of the window. Also, here is Dred's betrayal of Sonic over the next shard, which just cements what we already knew about Dred, and then he ends up in New York. It was entertaining to see Froggy willingly fire at Sonic when Catfish wouldn't, though. That was a fun subversion of expectations. Then we get back to New York and meet Chaos Sonic. I have mixed feelings about him. On the one hand, Metal Sonic is usually darker and has an insatiable lust for Sonic's destruction. On the other, this is effectively a robot with Sonic's personality, which is what this world was going for. Maybe I'd have stronger thoughts on him, but he was completely demolished not long after being introduced. They really should have left him out of the trailers if this was all they were going to do with him. But, okay. Nine and Sonic fight off the Chaos Council and make it to Ghost Hill, where Nine attempts to reassemble the shards while Sonic and Shadow hold the Council away. Admittedly, there is a brief moment before this where Nine meets Sails, Mangy, and what's left of the original Tails, which could lead to something in the future, but is mostly just a backlog for now. Sonic does manage to power up and defeat the Council's secret weapon, though I think the color was just a nod to a certain other super form. And then we get the one moment you'll all remember from this season, Nine's betrayal. My problem with this is that Sonic stated that Nine was trustworthy at least 4 times before this happens. There's a difference between firing Chekhov's gun and needing to reload it. Now, I actually liked Nine a lot in this season. I thought he was an interesting take on Tails. He served as plot convenience in the Boss Cage Mage and making a device so Sonic could touch the shards. Still, I liked the moment where he explored the Grim and thought of Sonic when trying to build a new home. He does have a bit of humanity, or whatever it is for an animal, in him. Plus, his betrayal makes sense based on the stance on the way the world treated him, so they get points for that. You may wonder why I say this season is so mediocre if I'm speaking so positively about this. Well, as I said, the betrayal was telegraphed way too hard. Not to mention, one good moment doesn't make up for a bunch of missed opportunities and mediocre character depictions throughout the season. Even Rebel Rouge and Knuckles seem to just be along for the ride, same as most characters in the other worlds. In a show with so many characters and different versions of them, it really says a lot that only three are that interesting to watch. To wrap up, I want to say that I don't hate this show. I just wish it did things better. I'll probably watch season 3 when it drops, but I'm already predicting the New Yoke, Boz Cage, and Pirate cast teaming up to help Sonic as he convinces Nine that just because the world isn't perfect doesn't mean there isn't any good in it at all. Who wants to place bets? Come on, you know I'm right. In all seriousness, Sonic Prime is a Sonic show that exists, but I really wish it had more to say for itself than that. Thank you for watching, everyone. Have a God bless day. And now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go watch a certain other movie franchise because the last video I did extremely well.